Welcome back to 40 TV with your host 40. Today we're going to add on to our previous Ableton lessons, and we're going to add a lead to this track we're creating. I've decided to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to let you preview the sound we're going for, and then we'll deconstruct it and show you how to create it. So let's take a listen to what we had in prior episodes. So that's our drum kit, our bass, both top end and bottom end bass. Now we're going to introduce a lead, and this is what the lead sounds like. So because of our lack of screen real estate, I'm going to go ahead and click and drag and shorten these two bass tracks right here. We don't need to see them right now. I'm going to select this lead track right here. I'm going to go ahead and press delete on my keyboard. Where to start, we need to create a new MIDI track. In order to do so, you can press Command-Shift-T on your keyboard or Control-Shift-T on a PC. Alternatively, you can go up to Create and go to Insert MIDI Track. We're going to go ahead and press Command-R or Control-R on a PC to rename this track. We'll call it Lead and press Enter. For our lead, we're going to utilize Ableton's Operator instrument. You don't have to use Operator. If you have the studio version of Ableton Live, then it comes with Operator. If you do not, then it is an additional fee, I believe $150. What we're going to talk about is universal to synthesizers, so you can use a different synth to come up with a similar sounding sound. The way synthesizers work is they produce different electronic signals of different frequencies via oscillators. So for example, right now, an Operator utilizes potentially 4 different oscillators. This is oscillator 1, currently set to a sine wave. You can see that right in this area here. You can change what type of wave by clicking on this button here and changing to another wave. You notice right now that it shows all 4 oscillators being active by the buttons being illuminated here, A, B, C, and D. However, B, C, and D are not currently working because their level is -infinity, so you won't hear anything. It's the same as them being muted, right? We're actually going to utilize 2 oscillators for this particular tutorial. Our first oscillator, we're going to leave the level, well actually we're going to drop the level down to -13. Before we do that, why don't we take a gander at what the sounds like. You want to make sure that your record enabled on the MIDI track. Go ahead and you can press the A, S, D, F key on your keyboard to audition the sound. It's a simple sine wave, right? We can adjust that sine wave, either coarse or fine, but we're going to leave it where it is. We're just going to drop the level down maybe -13 dB. We're also going to change the wave type. Instead of being a sine wave, we want to go ahead and change this to a SAW 16. What's cool about Operator is you can actually input user. We'll go ahead and do that real quick. You can input user style waves and draw them in. We're not going to do that in this tutorial right now, but definitely feel free to experiment. So we'll switch it back to a SAW 16 wave. We'll then switch over to oscillator 2. We're going to change the coarse adjustment from 1 to 0.5. We're going to change the fine adjustment up to 945 or thereabouts. We're going to change the level to -20 dB, and we're going to change the wave to a sine 8-bit wave. Okay, let's take a gander at what that sounds like by pressing A, S, D, or F on your keyboard. So we're getting interesting sound already, right? We want to go ahead and change the way that these 2 oscillators are modulating together. To do that, you need to select this little bank over here where your time, your tone, and your volume. These 4 buttons show in which way the oscillator is going to work together. We want to have it work in a parallel style mode, such as this. Or maybe that's a series style mode. Need to look that up. Anyways, this is the sound that we're looking for. We want to set the spread to 35%. The spread is what gives it some of that stereo width. However, this is pretty processor intensive, so if you're experiencing, you don't want it to sound too wide for the sound that we're going for, but you can increase this to a higher number if you want. If you have a older system, you may want to drop it down a little bit, because we can widen the mix later as well. We're also going to turn on the LFO. The LFO is a low frequency oscillator. This is a sound that will run through our two oscillators to modulate that sound. We're going to send a sine wave, a low end sound wave. We're going to turn off retrigger. We're going to change the rate to 110 or thereabouts. We also want to change the amount to 10%. Now, just to give you an idea what this sounds like, I'm going to press one of the keys, A, S, D, F, etc. And I'm going to increase the amount while holding down the key so you can get an idea. Obviously, you can automate this amount. All right, just to give you an idea what an LFO does, right? I'm going to go ahead and turn on the filter. I want to set the filter to a band 12, which is a band pass 12. I want to set the frequency here to 600 hertz. We can't type it in the field here, so let's just drag it up to about 600 hertz. I'm going to change the resonance to basically its lowest parameter, 0.30. So here we go. Let's hear what this sound sounds like. So this is the sound we have so far. Next, we kind of want to tweak this sound. Let's add a audio effect. We'll go back over here to instruments and collapse that window. We'll open up audio effects, and we're going to scroll down until we see Saturator. Saturator is going to color our sound a little bit. In fact, for it to do so, we want to turn on this color knob, which adds the ability to modify these settings down here. We also wanted to go ahead and turn up the drive. We're going to turn up the drive to roughly 12 dB, give or take. We want to change the bass to minus 9.14. The frequency, we're going to go ahead and set that to 8K. You can type in 8,000, press enter. For our width, we're going to drop this down a little bit to 25. And our depth, we're going to set that to minus 3.5. And minus 3.5. In order to come up with these settings, obviously you want to play with them. I'm just giving you the settings I used to create the sound that we heard. Let's go ahead and hear the sound with and without the saturator. Turning off the saturator. On. So it's definitely increasing its level because of this drive right here. We can obviously automate this as well when we're doing our mix down or our final tracking. Let's go ahead and collapse both of these two, operator as well as our saturator. I did that by double clicking in this title bar area. When you do so, it collapses. If you want to open it back up, you double click on the gray area and it opens it back up. It gives us a little bit more room because obviously even though I'm running on a 30-inch monitor, we're recording at 720p HD resolution, which is significantly smaller. Doesn't give us as much screen real estate. I want to add a compressor to bring out some of the tones that are not breaking through currently. So when I drop this compressor down, some of the settings that I came up with was a 7.8 let's see, 7.8 millisecond attack. I left the release at 20 milliseconds. I pulled down the threshold to minus 19. Let's see, we can type that in, minus 19. I set the ratio to 4.5. We can also type that in, press enter. I set the knee to 11 dB. Let's hear this without the compressor. With the compressor. So it's definitely breaking out just a little bit more, right? So now we want to change the sound up a little bit. One of the easiest ways to change the sound is to add a reverb. We're going to use Ableton's reverb, so let's scroll down, grab this reverb, pull it in after the compressor. We're going to go ahead and turn the low cut on. I'm going to set the frequency of the low cut to 1.6. Actually, we have to type in 1600, press enter. I'm going to set the bandwidth to 4.5. Let's see. We don't necessarily need spin. Let's turn it off. I'm also going to set the quality of this reverb from economy to high. If your CPU is being taxed, you can drop this setting down from high to mid, economy, etc. But for final mix down, you want to have it on high. Once you like the sound, you can create a loop by bouncing it to another track to save on processing, and then just disable all the plugins here, hide the track. We'll talk about that in another episode. We're going to leave the size, the stereo, the default settings. We're going to change the decay time to, I don't know, 3.5 or thereabouts. We want to set the high diffuse to 8 kilohertz. So type in 8000, press enter. We're going to set its bandwidth to 0.5. We're going to turn on the low diffusion, and we're going to set that to 125 hertz, and we're going to set the bandwidth to 0.2. We're going to leave chorus on. The only other setting we're going to modify here is the dry wet. We're going to change that to 20%. So let's give a gander without. With. And you see what it's doing is it's adding that trail at the end for us, right? So really extending the sound, giving it a slight delay-ish effect. Let's go ahead and collapse the compressor. We want to go ahead and add an auto filter now, because really I'd like to take off some of that top end of this, but still keeping the harmonics. Let's see, auto filter. I'm going to drag auto filter after the reverb. I want to set the frequency. This is going to be a low pass filter, so it is by default. You can change the type of filter here, high pass, band pass, and notch. We're going to change the frequency to 650 hertz, the Q to 0.8, and I think I set the LFO amount of this auto filter to 7.7 or thereabout. Change the rate from hertz to musical notes. I change it from a 16th note to a 6th note, and I think that's all I did. So without the auto filter, with the auto filter. So it definitely changed the tonality of the sound.